Hello, my name is the legendary Zoltan, and welcome to my top 10 favorite RPGs of all time. I'd like to tell you that this is just my personal list of what I like, but I couldn't help taking into consideration the more objective aspects of what makes a well-designed game. This has resulted in a list that is composed of what I like, but arranged in order of quality. Yes, that's right, friends. This is my subjective opinion, my ass. This is an official Zoltan Legendary ranking. If you disagree, it's not because we are different people with different tastes. It's because one of us is right and one of us is wrong. And I'm probably the one that's right because I have the word legendary in my name. What's your name? Is it Billiam? You can't trust a guy whose name is neither Bill nor William. Billiam, please. Get out of here with that shit. The purpose of this list is to have a record of what I currently love to compare with sometime farther down the line after my co-host Mel has had me play a bunch of his favorite games for our podcast, Turn-Based Memories. I would love to see myself make another top 10 list with completely different games in it for episode 100 or so, in a few years from now. One more thing to note, Mel and I have decided to allow Zelda-style games on these lists, simply because they are a type of game that RPG fans all happen to enjoy as well. And with that, let's start the countdown. Number 10, Breath of Fire 3, Capcom's dragon-centric RPG. The standout features of Breath of Fire 3 are the Dragon Gene system, the Fairy Village, and the Master System. All great systems that add layers of fun onto the base combat system. Ryu can transform into many different types of dragons depending on which 3 dragon genes you select. It's one of the few systems in games that encourages experimentation without being so huge that you just want to flip open a guide. The Fairy Village is an optional minigame where you build a fairy town, which can net you some great rewards. And the Master System allows you to choose a master who will affect your stat increases and learned abilities upon leveling up. Just like that, you can create your own builds for your JRPG characters. Number 9, The Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion. This is the only Western RPG that you will ever hear me talking about. I got the PS3 version. No, seriously. I actually got the PS3 version. I had first heard of this game from my mother, of all people, but our tastes differ in a lot of ways, so I disregarded it. But I would later constantly hear about the game and decided to give it a chance. After about 6 hours of just trying to understand what the appeal of the game is, I had an aha moment and instantly loved it from that moment onward. The vastness of the world, the freedom of the exploration, the plethora of characters, all voiced by this one dude and one babe, were all just bonuses for me. I was captivated by the forest. The look, the sound, the realistic feeling of danger, the extremely long time you can spend traversing it as you walk to your next destination. It is freaking sweet. That and the side quests. How many console RPGs have you played where they asked you to fetch my cat, and then you walked over to the cat, pressed a button to pick up the cat, and walked back to the owner just to press the button again to hear them say thank you? Oblivion has none of that nonsense. Every quest is interesting as hell, and many of them have multiple outcomes, entirely dependent on who you choose to believe, what you choose to do, or how well you can do it. We're only at number 9, and already I have suffered a mind blow. Number 8, Star Ocean, the second story. This is Star Ocean 2, but it was the first Star Ocean game to come to the West. And it was the first Tri-Ace game I ever played. And once again, mind fucking blown. This was back in the PlayStation 1 days, and when I played this thing, I actually said to myself, this is way better than Final Fantasy. The fun of Star Ocean 2 all basically boils down to the ability system. It's not that different from a lot of other ability systems out there. You level up to earn ability points, and you spend points in a big ability menu on whatever abilities you want. But they let you do all kinds of things with it. You have an ability to increase or decrease the number of random battles you meet. You have an ability to play orchestra music, which in turn gives you the ability to do a million other interesting things. You have the ability to craft weapons, armor, and even illegal items. You have the ability to pickpocket NPCs, and you can get some sweet freaking things from that. You have the ability to send an animal to go back to town and shop for you while you are deep in a dungeon. You can make battles harder for more experience or easier for less experience. You can write books, publish them, and make money from the royalties. Does none of that sound awesome? It sounds awesome to me. It also has a very romantic atmosphere for the first third or so, as the male and female lead characters go from town to town, staying at inns together. Just the two of them, the cutest girl ever and the warrior of light, in the same room, all night, every night, on a great adventure. How can they not be doing it? Number 7, Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. The game that thrusted Level 5 into stardom. They had a bit of a following garnered from their previous Dark Cloud games, but after Dragon Quest VIII, everyone was like, bruh, Level 5 is cherry, bruh. You know, like Level 5. Maybe you get the kind something wrong in your skull, bruh. Seriously, all they did was add a simple ability point system, nicer graphics and audio, and way more forests to the basic Dragon Quest system, and it turned out to be the most solid RPG anyone had played in years. Those 140 hours just flew by. One of the best grinds in existence, with some of the best post-game content as well.
I see.
Number 6, Final Fantasy Tactics. This game is fucking metal, as are all of my favorite games from this point onward. How can Tactics be the best Final Fantasy? It has the best version of the Final Fantasy job system. It has the most character customization of any Final Fantasy. It has the greatest difficulty before you learn all the exploits. It has the best character graphics of any Final Fantasy up to 9, thanks to the 2D sprites. Those are the facts. Other more subjective things that might appeal to you are the 30-minute-long strategic battles, the very fleshed-out war story filled with lots of political intrigue rather than crazy anime-style anything-goes plot twists, and the most metal Final Fantasy soundtrack of them all. Remember that after Tactics came out, every strategy RPG ever made since has been compared to it, and if it wasn't as good or different enough, it was forgotten. That should tell you all you need to know about Final Fantasy Tactics. Number 5, Brave Fencer Musashi. Brave Mother Fencer Musashi Den. Brave Fencer Musashi is hardly an RPG at all. It's way closer to a 3D Zelda clone, but it does have some stats that you can grind if you want to. But it's totally unnecessary. You are the famous samurai from real-life history, Miyamoto Musashi, but you are still a child, and you have been forcefully summoned from your world to the all-you-can-eat kingdom. And you can't go back to the real-world Japan until you save the kingdom from the Thirst Quencher Empire. This is the story. Amazing, right? You explore a nicely laid out 3D world to rescue all the captured castle folk, find the 5 legendary scrolls, and take down the Empire. There is childish voice acting, fun 3D Zelda-style gameplay, and a day/night/time system within which the villagers and shops all have their own daily and even weekly schedules. One thing that really sets this game apart that nobody ever has thought about except me, because I'm amazing and legendary, is the soundtrack. In terms of quality of composition, you can't really say it's better than all the other famous ones out there, but in terms of sound quality, Brave Fencer Musashi wins. The mixing, the equalization is just so freaking amazing. I actually bought the original soundtrack from Japan way back when I first played the game. It's just a rockin' good time, and the way it is used in the game is the best you will ever hear in any game ever made. What am I talking about? Well, how about the fact that there is not ever a repeated song? Every dungeon, every area, every boss, every cutscene, no matter how small and insignificant, has its own music. And the composer did such a good job that every scene is like a music video. So many scenes have moments that are synchronized with the music, and the style of music is not similar to any I've heard anywhere. Also, this game has puzzles. Many are easy, some are hard, all of them are nice, and that is something that I wish more RPGs had. Lastly, the challenge. Brave Fencer Musashi has hard boss battles the first time you play through it, but also hard platforming segments that can still be hard multiple plays later. Brave Fencer Musashi is highly underrated. It is one of the best RPG-ish games ever made. Number 4, Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is considered by most to be a perfect RPG, in that all that it attempts to achieve, it does achieve, and quite beautifully. We've got one of the better RPG stories of the SNES era because Yuji Horii does not make things vague. The entire story of Chrono Trigger is in Chrono Trigger. You don't need fan speculation to fill in the holes like a lot of other games. The ability to have two characters combine their magic into a single spell was new at the time. The difficulty is very well regulated throughout. We've got one of the most popular games soundtracks ever composed, ever in any game genre ever of all time, ever. The time travel mechanics work perfectly within the story and in the gameplay. The Dragon Ball artist Akira Toriyama brings his signature style to the character and monster designs. The boss battles are interesting as hell and graphically amazing. The story is dramatic, the characters are likable, and the dungeons are well crafted and fun to traverse. Throw on top of all of that one of the earliest and best examples of multiple endings, and the fact that this is the game that invented New Game Plus. And it's no wonder that Chrono Trigger is at the top of everyone's top 10 lists. What 3 games could Zoltan possibly find better than this? Number 3, Xenogears. Formerly my favorite game. In light of my current preference for gameplay over story, I've allowed it to slip down to number 3, to the number 3 spot. FF6 was the game that got me started on RPGs, and Chrono Trigger got me a little more invested, but this is the game that got me completely hooked forever. If ever there was a game for me to have a nostalgic attachment to, this is it. The greatest story in any game ever. What game has a better story than Xenogears? Answer me this question. Even with the game's severely compromised second disc, they still finished telling the story, and it still blew my mind. The gameplay was sweet as well. It's not much of an experience grind, but it is a death blow grind. Gotta get the next death blow. That's what it's all about. This game has my favorite characters in any game. I prefer this cast to the one in FF6 for sure. The music is once again one of the greatest RPG soundtracks ever composed by the now legendary Yasunori Mitsuda. The graphics were great for their time. The real appeal in terms of gameplay is the mech combat and boss battles. My favorite boss battles in any game come from Xenogears. A lot of the bosses have a gimmick that you must figure out, which is the way I like it. And the challenge is there too. Truly, a flawed masterpiece. Number 2, Valkyrie Profile. To Niflheim with Odin Sphere. This is the Norse mythology game. I actually think the gameplay systems in Valkyrie Profile 2 are better, but this is the game that started it all and has a wider appeal. Anyone who has played this game has never forgotten it. Insanely beautiful sprite art, the most unique and fun battle system ever created, one of the strongest female protagonists, and the most interesting method of storytelling. The game has 8 chapters till the Battle of Ragnarok, and it's up to you, as a Valkyrie, to recruit warriors to Odin's army. That means you get to see every character's last moments on Midgard, watch them die, and then appear to them in Limbo to judge their souls. So you get the overarching story of Odin and Ragnarok, and 21 short character stories. These extremely dramatic cutscenes with beautiful sprite work and Motoi Sakuraba's best soundtrack are what really make this game stand out in everyone's mind. Nobody ever tires of hearing Lenneth Valkyrie yell, "Nibelung Valesti!" Before announcing the greatest RPG of all time, here are all the other games I had difficulty not including in the top 10, in no particular order. Valkyrie Profile 2, Silmeria. Quite possibly the greatest battle system and greatest skill system ever made. Also, the best graphics on the PS2. Star Ocean, The Last Hope, International. The skill upgrade system, bonus board, and crafting system make this one of the sweetest grinds out there. This game is also famous for having the worst characters in RPG history. Xenosaga. The protagonist is yet another unbelievably unpopular character. But who can resist her sexy battle android Cosmos, the tactical battle system, and the longest dungeons in JRPG history? Not me. At least I think they're the longest dungeons in JRPG history. They're like 5 or 6 hours long. Final Fantasy XII. Use the gamut system to have the game do everything for you. Also, Vaughn's hilarious abdominal muscles. Also, don't believe Ondor's lies. Also, Star Wars. Shadow Hearts, Covenant. Funny main character, very short skirts, the Judgment Ring, and a different ability learning system for each character. Breath of Fire 5, Dragon Quarter. The last Breath of Fire in the series that is the polar opposite of all the previous games in nearly every way. Resonance of Fate, yet another crazy unique battle system designed by Tri-Ace. The main character's personality is just too cool to be true, and his name is Vacheron. White Knight Chronicles 2, a level 5 MMORPG gone single player. This is the longest grind I've ever seen. 1,000 hours to get the Platinum Trophy. Tales of Vesperia, only available on the Xbox 360 until the PS4 remake finally comes out. This is one of the best Tales games. It excels in gameplay, art, and story. And it also has a main character who is just too cool to be true. And finally, Dungeon Defenders, the tower defense RPG with the most generic goddamn name ever. I hate this name, Dungeon Defenders. Unbelievably generic. There have been other tower defense RPGs out there, but this one is the best. It's a chaotic good time. And now the moment you've been waiting for. The game that Zoltan claims is the greatest RPG ever made is not an RPG. It's Alundra. The testament I always make to people when I want to communicate to them how good this game is that I first played this PlayStation 1 game right about when the PlayStation 3 was about to come out, and it still completely blew my mind into smithereens. Let's get the simple stuff out of the way. Great 2D graphics, great music, great Zelda-style gameplay. What makes this game stand out is the challenge and the story. Without spoiling anything, the story is very solid, very easy to understand, very dramatic, and does something, to a degree, much further than any other RPG story has ever done. But I can't tell you what that is because it would be a merciless spoiler. But more importantly than the story is the challenge. Fans of Zelda Wind Waker will tell you that the game is great, but the bosses are too easy. Alundra's bosses are a decent challenge. But far more amazing than the boss challenge is the endless gauntlet of brutal puzzles that this game is comprised of. From start to finish, you are solving puzzle rooms, and they get harder and harder all the way to the end, with a few peaks in the middle of the game that could have you stumped for as long as an hour. Just you, standing around in a single room for an hour. All RPGs attempt to create a feeling of great adventure through a combination of a grandiose story, an expansive world, a long playtime, epic boss fights, and character progression. That's not what Alundra does. When you beat Alundra, you will feel like you have just been on an epic journey, but it does it by simply making you feel fatigued. You get tired and worn down as you go through long-ass dungeon after long-ass dungeon filled with hard-ass puzzle after hard-ass puzzle, while simultaneously feeling fatigued by all the stressful story events. If you ever decide to use your mind and try to put yourself into Alundra's shoes, you will feel overexerted, underslept, underappreciated, and sad. And when you finally beat the game, you actually feel like you've completed a game where there was a chance that you would not finish. And those are the best 10 RPGs and Zelda clones I have ever played. If you are one of the 22 people watching this video, thank you, and you're angry that FF6, FF7, FF9, and Dark Souls are all absent from the list, write to me in the comment section and I will definitely respond to you. I'm looking forward to finding out what Mel's top 10 RPGs are, because whatever they are, I will have to play them for the podcast. And you can bet that all the games mentioned in my list will be assigned to Mel as well. If you are new to this channel and have enjoyed my annoying voice, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified the exact moment that Mel's top 10 video goes up, ring the bell icon. Thank you very much. This has been the legendary Zoltan.